a simpler time. Time of DeLoreans, when they had a flux capacitor, they could travel back in time. A time when you could create a woman with a makeshift DOS computer. A time when Steven Spielberg was awesome. A time when Harrison Ford was in good Indiana Jones movies. Ah, the 80s. I never lived through them. And from what I've seen from this movie that I just saw, I'm kind of glad that I didn't. Well, if you haven't guessed by now, I just saw Take Me Home Tonight, the brand new Michael Dow's movie that just came out. What can I say about it? I didn't like it. First off, you might be saying, who? Michael Dow's? Gosh, I've never heard of him. Well, guess what? Neither have I. He's made such acclaimed classics as Fubar Part 2, Balls to the Wall. Doesn't that sound like a good movie? Actually, to be honest, I kind of want to see that, but I've never heard of this guy. And from what I've seen from this movie, it's kind of obvious why. The movie's... I don't want to say it's artsy. It's not really that artsy to begin with at all. It's, frankly, kind of derivative and boring. Okay, let me put it this way. It's not it's not an homage to the 80s. It's not a Wedding Singer. It's not even like a Pretty in Pink, where it's kind of set in the 80s, but it's a story about, you know, the lives of teenagers and whatever. That's kind of what it's shooting for. But I'm not really sure what kind of movie it's supposed to be. I mean, it's kind of billed as a rom-com of sorts. It's kind of billed as, like, this is kind of a romantic comedy where the nerdy guy is pining for the attractive cheerleader-type girl. And, you know, his misadventures while, you know, going to a wild party, and he ends up, you know, doing stuff he really shouldn't, and, you know, shenanigans happen, and all, you know, goofy stuff. Oh, what will Topher Grace do next? Oh my gosh, look at him being all wacky. It's Eric Foreman. Oh yeah, yeah. I laughed maybe 4 times. And for the majority of it, the only times that I really laughed were actually legitimately good writing. But that was a beautiful island of pristine dialogue in the midst of a sea of awkward, odd conversation. I would almost say this movie should have been called Awkward Conversation the Movie. It almost hit a little too close to home, considering this is what it was almost too real. The way I describe it is, you know, Michael Dow's just kind of brought along a webcam, and he just kind of was following around these group of, you know, 80s teenagers as they went to this, you know, pretty average, you know, out-of-college party, which was a little too collegey and high schooly for my taste. I mean, like, okay, let me put it this way. The people in the movie are supposed to be, like, in their mid-20s, like 24, 25, and they behave like this is a high school party. Like, they're all like, yeah, I drink, look at me, oh look, I'm kissing on a couch, yay, I'm smoking a bong from an apple, oh man, this is amazing. And you know what? I just made it sound more interesting than it really was. I've seen more shenanigans in the Little Rascals special, you know, Our Gang, or even if you want to go even further back. Alright, guys, well, I've kind of ranted about this. I mean, yeah, Stephen, you're looking at it like, Luby, I haven't seen the movie. What? Give me something to work with. Alright, interwebbers. The movie stars Topher Grace. You know, Eric Foreman from That 70s Show, and Sucky Venom from, you know, Spider-Man Part 3, The Suckage. And he delivers every line like he's trying still to be Eric Foreman, like he's trying to recapture his Eric Foreman. I mean, it's not saying that's necessarily bad. I like Eric Foreman, but part of the joy of That 70s Show was having a variety of characters that all had different motivations and were all progressively had their own style of comedy. Topher Grace was the dry straight man, and in this movie, he's supposed to be. I don't really know if he's supposed to be. He plays it off like the dry straight man in a midst of pretty much all straight men. There really isn't much comedy in this movie. At least I didn't think so. And the comedy that is in this movie is incredibly dry and just focuses mostly on awkward conversation. Topher Grace does a pretty good job with that, I guess. There are moments when he, where you really legitimately think, like, hey, this kid's really starved for attention. This kid's really hurting. Following along on his little misadventure is Dan Fogler, his buddy Barry, who is an ex, spoiler alert, is an ex used car salesman from the 1980s. Wears way too much hair gel and thinks he's, pretty much all that. The premise of his character is that he never went to college and he kind of missed out on what, the college experience because he had to get a job. Whereas Topher Grace's character went to MIT. Oh, I completely glossed over the fact, and this is a really big point in the movie about Topher Grace's character, is that he feels like a loser. His entire character is that he's afraid to live. He's afraid to keep going. He's afraid to be an adult of sorts. He's 24 years old, and he works at Suncoast Video in the mall, which hit kind of close to home to me. And he is, working a dead-end job, and he doesn't have much going for him, and he's struggling so hard. The guy went to MIT. I mean, he could be an engineer. He could get a really good job, but he's afraid to make the first step. He's afraid to even step at all. Like, that's his premise. So far, we have Topher Grace as a hesitant weenie. Dan Fogler is a really loud and obnoxious character, but not in a charming way. He was, out of all the characters, I found him the most interesting. He was bizarre, he was wacky, almost like he was channeling a Chris Farley type thing. At least that's the kind of vibe I got from it. The dialogue was very over the top, and his facial expressions were very, And his character is that he somehow comes across a bag of cocaine, and he, uses it, the crazy shenanigans that ensue. You've seen crazier shenanigans, in a Charles Schultz peanut strip. Teresa Palmer is, actually, to be honest, one of the best actors in this movie. She plays, you probably remember her from Sorcerer's Apprentice. She played the love interest, and she's legitimately good. She's very attractive. She really is. She's gorgeous. And her character is that she's she's a banker, and she hates it. She doesn't like what she does. She just wants something. There must be something more. She says, like, the Beauty and the Beast syndrome, So, they decide, hey, we're gonna have a wild party, and I'm gonna convince, in order to win her heart, I'm gonna tell her that I don't work at Suncoast Video. I'm a banker for Goldman Sachs. And sorry, chuckle. And that's gonna convince her to love me because I'm rich. So, but I can't drive my little hatchback, so I'm gonna steal a car and surprise her. They go to this very, frankly, quite tame party where, they meet Michelle Trachtenberg, playing a goth girl who just has a cameo. She's a straight-up cameo. And I picked her out, even though I picked her out immediately, but I'm sure if, none of you watched Harriet the Spy, you guys won't be able to find her. But believe me, she's there. And she does a really, really, really good job, all 5 lines they gave her. The film has so many opportunities to be funny, and it just doesn't. There isn't much to it at all. It's, like I said, frankly, kind of boring. Now, there were moments where I was like, hey, it's a DeLorean. Topher Grace's dad is played by Michael Biehn from Terminator and Navy SEALs. That I liked. I was like, hey, that's cool. That's an homage to me. That's something that I like to see. So that's, yes. So, that's just something that's just those little nods to the 80s that I really liked. The opening credit sequence was Hungry Like the Wolf, from Duran Duran. And that was cool. But for a movie titled Take Me Home Tonight, I don't recall the song once. I don't recall them even playing the song once. I mean, Eddie Money's, Take Me Home Tonight. I didn't hear it at all. I didn't hear it played once. It might have been played over a short period or something like that, but it didn't stick out to me. It didn't show anything. Honestly, I'm struggling to remember most of the movie because it was just so forgettable. Is the movie bad? Honestly, I can tell you, for all the ranting I gave you, like, wow, this is the worst movie I've ever seen. Honestly, It's not that bad. The people I was with enjoyed it. They said it was kind of like The Office style humor. I'm not a big fan of The Office. In fact, I don't get much of it. I don't find a lot of it funny. I mean, it's almost too real. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could find the funny in the mundane, but the funny in the extravagant is also, in my opinion, just more hilarious. I prefer Dumb and Dumber over The Office, or Liar Liar over The Office. And I mean, not to say that The Office is bad. I mean, it's very smartly written. It's gorgeous, but I mean, not my style. I guess if you like The Office, or if you like that style of humor, you might like Take Me Home Tonight. It's very dry. It kind of drags. I mean, it pulls the drag chute pretty much out the entire movie. But you know what? If you like that kind of humor, I guess you might get it. There might be something in it that you might have seen. Is it bad? No, no. I mean, the cinematography's good. The pacing's good. The acting is decent, except for Anna Faris. I completely forgot about because she was totally forgettable. And I'm sorry, guys, but I love Anna Faris. I think she's hilarious, and she was completely underused in this. I was gritting my teeth. I was like, ah. But barring all that, if you can say, you know what, I find enjoyment in the mundane, and I find enjoyment in just stuff that's frankly just awkward conversation. You can chuckle at that. Then this might be the movie for you. If you like a fast-paced Hangover-style comedy that's just chock full of wacky situation after wacky situation, you're not going to like this movie. You will not like this movie at all. You'll find it very slow and very, very dragging, which is my personal opinion of the movie. Alright guys, that's Take Me Home Tonight.